What a great way to end a wonderful, busy day here in fall. Our apple trees are dripping with apples, and if you guys missed the last video I did about making my famous apple brandy, go back and check that out. But I have lots of apples. I have some extra apples here that I've been working on. They're actually starting to turn a little yellow, but I'm going to use them right now for what we're going to do today. And I have to tell you guys that what we are making today is something that I use, and Doug and I use every single day, 365 days a year. So this is very important, and no matter if you guys are living in an apartment or you're on 11 acres like we are, you can do this too. We're going to be making apple cider vinegar. Simple and easy recipe. You can do it two ways. You can use the whole apple, or you can use scraps that you had just got done using if you were making applesauce or the apple brandy or something like that. You can use the cores, you can use the seeds, you can use the stems, I mean whatever you got left over. A lot of people are wondering, well, what if I only have a few and I want to collect them? You can freeze them, but I would suggest if you freeze your scraps and skins and peels, take them out, and then when you do it yourself with the apple cider vinegar, go ahead and use a few fresh ones. Because when you are going to be making this apple cider vinegar, each of these apples has its own like little happy family in it. It has its good bacteria over it. And I know a lot of you guys have heard of lactobacilli and then acidobacter. Those are good bacteria. So what's going to happen through this fermentation process, it's going to produce this vinegar. And you're going to need a few things. Along with your apples, you're going to need a jar. You can use any size jar you want. And you're going to need some cane sugar. Make sure it's cane sugar and it's not just plain sugar. It needs to say cane sugar because if it's not, it's usually GMO'd beet sugar, and you don't want that. So we're going to use that, and then you're going to also need some filtered water. Make sure that it's not chlorinated because that could hinder the fermentation process. In your glass container, I'm using a 1 gallon jar, but you can use half gallon or quart, whatever you got. And I'm going to fill it about 3/4 full. Anywhere between a half and 3/4 full. You don't have to worry about cutting it up perfect. Just throw it in how you got it. Because nothing here goes to waste. We're going to use it all. What you're going to need to do to start this fermentation going is the sugar, because we need to feed this. So I'm going to put 1 cup of sugar to my gallon. Now if you're doing less, it's 1 tablespoon per cup of water. So just remember that, 1 tablespoon per cup of water, or for a gallon of water, I'm going to use 1 full cup. I'm going to put my filtered water in there. Now you guys know apple cider vinegar has been around over 5,000 years. The Egyptians and Babylonians used it. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used it to treat his patients, as well as Christopher Columbus. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I use it here daily. You can use it in your salad dressings. I make homemade salad dressings here. You can use it for toners after you shave, on your skin. I use it as a hair rinse. Doug uses it as a beard rinse. It's wonderful, like if you have aches or pains, or with gout, if you're suffering from gout, skin problems, get stung by a bee. It helps to kind of neutralize the venom. So I'm just going to stir this up really good. Oops, don't lose any apples. Now one thing that I really like to use this for is it's great for your digestion. It kind of slows like the emptying of your gastric area, and it also helps to reduce like spiking of your blood sugars. So I like to take a tablespoon of this before I have a meal in a cup of water, and it really does help with digestion. Next, you're going to need a breathable cloth. So I like to use like a flour sack. This is an old t-shirt. You just want to make sure you don't get any fruit flies in there. So you don't want any thin like a cheesecloth, because those have holes in it and the little fruit flies can get in there, and you don't want that. So you're going to put a nice tight rubber band on it. Make sure nothing can get in. So basically, when you look at a vinegar or you look at kombucha, it's something, and when you talk about fermenting, it's making an acidic acid. So if you look at fermenting, like sauerkraut or something like that, that's lactic acid fermentation. And then you also look at wine and beer, that is an alcohol fermentation. So what we're going to do here, this has got to first change into an alcohol, and then from there it's going to turn into a vinegar. So what we're going to do is put this somewhere in your house, in your pantry, out of the sunlight, and we're going to let it set for about 4 to 6 weeks because we want to turn it into like a hard cider before it moves on to the vinegar stage. During this 4 to 6 weeks, it's very important that we stir this because the sugar is going to settle at the bottom. So every day for 2 weeks, I'm just going to get my little handy dandy wooden spoon and I'm going to stir. Just get up all that sediment at the bottom. Stir it all up.
Every day for 2 weeks.
Yes, I'm going to stir it every day for 2 weeks. If you forget, it's okay. I know a lot of people forget. I forget sometimes too. It's not going to kill you. But try to remember, just put it somewhere where you can see it, like if it's in your pantry that you open every day, that you say, oh, there's my apple cider vinegar, I have to stir it. So that's what you're going to do. Okay? Stirring it every day to get rid of the sediment from the sugar settling at the bottom. And another reason is if we let those apple pieces come up out of the liquid or the water with the sugar, it could get moldy. So just by stirring it, it'll help. And as it sets after week after week after week, a lot of those apples will start to sink a little bit. So let's say it's been our 6 weeks. I like to go a little bit longer. I know a lot of people, you'll see, they'll say just go for a month or even 3 weeks. I like to go longer. So I'll go about 6 weeks. After my 6 weeks, I'm going to strain these apples. Now it's time to strain it after your 4 to 6 weeks. Now I have to tell you, you can use it, you're going to use a strainer. And a lot of times I'd strain my things and I'm lazy and a lot of times I have to strain it 2 or 3 times. Well, I went to one of those wine and beer making places and look at this wonderful strainer I got. It's very like fine. It's like a fine mesh strainer. So I really like those. If you guys ever have a chance of getting one of these, I would highly recommend it. So now, all you're going to do is take your little hard cider you made, and you're going to strain it through.
You don't have to dump out all the apples, do you? For the sake of showing them.
Yeah, just show me.
Go ahead.
Show me do it.
You do it.
Okay. This is a probiotic treat to give to your chickens. They will absolutely love it. Okay. So here's my little hard cider that I just made. And then I'm going to take that mixture and pour it in my jar. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put your cloth on with the rubber band. And I'm going to give you something else that you can do. You don't have to do this, but sometimes it could help just in case if there's molding or something. It could help kind of jumpstart it a little bit. If you have an existing batch of apple cider vinegar like I have here, you could use that. If you have some raw apple cider vinegar that you've gotten at the store, you can use that also. And then all you're going to do is put like a little shot in there. And as you can see, since it's vinegar, I put parchment in there so that it won't eat away at the top. And I'm just going to put a little shot in there. Maybe 2 little shots. And that'll kind of help jumpstart it. But you don't have to do that, okay, if you don't have it. Then I put my cloth on top, my band, and then I'm going to let this sit for, if you listen to the internet, it'll say you can make vinegar in a couple months. Honestly, for me, I like my vinegar to taste like you get at the store, because generally homemade vinegar might have an acidity of about 2 to 3%. The kind that you get at the store is generally 5%. They usually do not recommend you using this kind of vinegar if you're going to be doing any canning, because you need at least 5% acidity, so remember that. If you want to test it, you can get pH strips and go ahead and test your vinegar to see what the pH is, but most people don't do that. So generally for me to get a nice vinegar that tastes more like the store-bought, I'll let it go a little longer, because right now it's going to start eating up more and more of those sugars. So I like to go about 4 months for me. So I'm going to let this sit. Now as time goes by, don't freak out or get scared or anything, but it will form on top. You can kind of see this SCOBY, like a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It may form on top. I've been carrying this and kind of, some of it dropped to the bottom. I had them at the top. So they drop to the bottom. But you're going to get like a little SCOBY in there. It's harmless. It's what they call the mother. And that's all that beneficial bacteria. That's wonderful. You know, you talk about a fermented food and how good this is for you. You know, when you're adding it to your diet and your salad dressings, or you're taking a shot of it with some water, it's very beneficial and helpful for the body. So I'm going to let this sit after I did my 4 to 6 weeks initially. I'm going to let it set for another 3 months or so. And then I'm going to take this off and I'm going to look at it. I'm going to smell it, maybe give it a little taste, and it's going to taste just like vinegar like you buy in the store. I have to say, over these past 13 years living off grid, I have begun to be a much better forward thinker, I guess you could say. I'm more proactive about things, thinking ahead. So this is something that I'm not just going to get immediately. You know, of course it's going to take a few months. You're 4 to 6 weeks initially, and then 3 more months to let it set. So 4 months or so, and then I'll have vinegar. So you have to be prepared for this. Not all apples are created equal. Make sure that you're getting good organic apples. It's apple season now, so go to some, you know, apple orchards, find a farmer, go around, find someone that has trees, an older person maybe that has a tree dripping with apples, go to their door and ask them, hey, you know, I would be glad to pick up some of your apples, you know, if I could have a bushel or two. And then you guys can do this yourself, and then that way you can have your own apple cider vinegar and you don't have to worry about going to the store. So this is a wonderful, wonderful tool that you guys can do with your kids. It's a great experiment, I guess you could see how things can change and other things, and we're basically controlling, it's like controlled decay. So if my apple just sat out, it's going to rot, right? But I'm controlling the process and I'm turning it into something so wonderful. So here's my challenge to you guys. We're going to have an apple cider vinegar challenge. I want all you guys to start trying to make it. Let's see how many people we can do. We want millions of people making apple cider vinegar, and you guys start to be your own healthcare provider and start taking control of your food. I will see you later. Bye.